you walk through like Narnia, hanging coats and you walk through it and. That's so well, you can tell, like,
Have you been to Off-Gate?
yeah,
That's
it's kind of like that, Phil, but.
Everyone, oh, get
Yes.
gathered.
I think
just
serve
a
for the
second.
community is
Thank you so
that's what
much.
city coffee shop has. So,
Okay.
they just opened at the end of July, and they're having like a little house this Saturday. Yeah.
That sounds like so much fun. I'd love to meet my kids.
Yeah. Maybe you can get tomorrow, maybe we can. Let's line the calendar. I'll be in August.
Gather us together and get started. Thank you so much for taking your afternoon. My name is Gretchen Bennett. I'm on the staff team at the Mayor and City Manager's Office and with Community Services. And it's so great to see all of you. What we have in mind is to provide an update on our safety and livability initiative with our interim city manager, Krishna Nambari. And then mostly we want to center this as an opportunity to listen and hear any comments or reflections that you might have for that. So plenty of time for public comments. If necessary, we'll limit the comment period to 3 minutes and my teammate Irma will pay attention to that, but that might not be needed. We'll see. Also quick logistical announcements, right out those 2 double doors where the one that's open, you'll find restrooms and also water fountain or refill station if anyone needs that. I think with that, if Krishna is ready, we'll ask your updates and go from there.
Yeah, thank you, Gretchen. Because this is such a small group, is it okay if we just go on the deal?
Paul Valley.
Hello, Watson.
Carrie Lynn Patterson.
Lori Walker was sitting here and I'm Ariel Lovell.
Robert Garcia. Bruce Stream.
I'm Erin Nett. I work with the city.
Sue Fowler.
Sorry.
Okay.
No, well, when they come back, they're gonna be locked out, so she can't close all the way.
Sue Fowler, co-chair of Elmer.
Hi, I'm Courtney. I work for the city. Christy Margraves.
Irma Coleman, I work for the city. Thank you so much and good afternoon and thank you so much for having me here. What I would like to do is just to kind of give a brief update about where we are at. And I know you guys have been hearing a lot about the safety and livability initiative the city has taken on. Your council has been talking about safety and livability, I have to say, since like June. I kind of want to take a minute and kind of explain about where we kind of how we landed where we are at. So as we were going around the community talking about the budget deficit and the levy, I and the city staff and Courtney, Josh, and we all have attended several neighborhood association meetings and several forums. And consistently what we heard was what is the city going to do about so I'm just kind of giving an update on how we ended up at the safety of commission. So the community has consistently talked about the need for the safety and livability work and what the city going to do around it. And we did talk about at that point, we were trying to address the deficit that we had. And the levy was kind of on the ballot. And so I did promise them that once we kind of figured out this path, we'll come back and talk about the safety and livability initiatives. So that's kind of what started the conversation. And then we were, as staff, we were kind of looking into after the levy passed, what were the next steps? And we had conversations about some possible options, and then terrible, like UGM incident happened, and that's really shook the entire community. And so that kind of led into hey, we have to be kind of doing something about the safety and livability. And so that's kind of what started the process. The council met several times since June. Nothing that the council talked about was new work, but we knew that we needed to be looking into some kind of a program that enhances safety and livability for everybody in Salem. And the conversations really led into, I just have to say that we went with a very, with a faster pace on this. We knew that we needed to engage the community but we were kind of doing the work in parallel and I do, because we were going at such a pace, like we said, okay, we'll try to continue to engage the community, but also kind of work on the safety and visibility work that we have to do behind the scenes. And what I do want to take a minute to address is, I think there is a misunderstanding out in the community, what the problem that we were going to address through the safety and livability initiative. From our side, it was pretty clear that there are things that we have to have in place to address the symptoms and to address what needs to be done right away. And then there are things that need to be done to address the root cause, right? So there are like, we knew that it's a parallel path that we have to take. And then so as we were having those conversations, the mayor got selected into the Bloomberg Harvard City Leadership Initiative. And that led into Bloomberg asking the mayor what her priority was, and she said public safety. Courtney and I worked with the mayor to say, hey, what does public safety mean to you? And that conversation led into, the mayor talked about it before, from drug enforcement and crime prevention to sanitation. So she kind of gave us the broader definition. And that led into saying, okay, so we're going to have a target on this as a safety, healthy and clean city. So that conversation led to that. So with a vision of working on this in parallel is what the city decided to do. The immediate problem is we need to be addressing the symptoms so that we are helping everybody in this community. That includes house residents, unhoused residents, and there is a piece that there is a business community talking about. So we wanted to come up with a solution that is kind of addressing these things. Understanding that we need to work in parallel on the root cause. The hope we had was we knew the Bloomberg track was coming our way. We were not selected at that time for it. But the mayor wanted to apply for the collaboration track. And so it kind of fell into place. Like it felt like there was a hope coming our way. Like as we were addressing the symptoms, somebody else can come and help us with the root cause, right? So it's just like, I don't know how it happened, but it's like, oh, this is awesome, right? Like, so we have a fact in this problem. So as I'm talking about the safety and livability, I want to be conscious and acknowledge that this is to address the symptoms. And there is much bigger need and much broader help we have to provide to address the needs, right? So I want to acknowledge that. With that in mind, for safety and livability, I talked about the mayor's vision of going with a safe, clean, and healthy Salem. We also had to look into what are the different components that we have to put in place. For safety, we said 2 HSD officers. As we were, I just want to take a step back, as we were kind of listening to the community and from different forums. I don't remember which council meeting it was, but it really touched my, soul and heart when somebody came and testified about, with the crime that happens against unsheltered population, which I heard about it before, but that kind of really I just kind of wanted to say that, like, so the solution, whatever we were going to put forward, is to help everyone, right? So that was very important to us. And that was important to the mayor and council, to the entire council. So with that, when we said 2 homeless service team officers, part of that what the chief talked about is the sooner there is an intervention to refer an individual to some kind of help, the better outcome that they And we knew that was not going to happen to, other like police officers, but more like HST police officers, that they have proven record to help individuals, so, and also intervene when it is needed for safety of the community. So that's kind of two HST officers for the public safety. And then, for a community health response model, the fire chief has worked in San Diego, with a similar model. That he was the one actually who brought forward to say, hey, I think we can make this happen, and he started developing relationship with the county to get some help, and I know the mayor, we were talking with the county about providing them some kind of help for the community health response model, so I'm just going to give that credit to the mayor and the fire chief, who really kind of said, okay, we can have the collaboration with the county to meet him. So that's how that started, which is the community health response model. And then with the cleanliness, that was something that we as a staff, when we talked about it, we wanted to have a comprehensive, holistic approach to it, which is we can't just invest into one resource and expect other two to come in. And it's like I said, it's a three-legged stool. We want to create an impact. We want to make a difference for everybody in the community. So that's the approach we have taken. So without getting into the too many details with it, where we are at right now is we had 2 council work sessions, 3 opportunities for the council to have a conversation around it. And last work session, the council did give us a direction to say, we want to do this sooner than later. And I want to give, very thankful, and Councilor Tigan was the one who kind of interrupted the meeting and said, why are we waiting until January 1st on this? Let's do it. If you have a model, let's do this something. Then later, and the entire council nodded their head, and it was like a really, to me, this kind of speaks about your council and how each of them want to do the right thing to advance this, this community forward. So we got the approval. So we are taking our budget proposal to council for next Monday. I actually just approved that in our system to kind of move forward with it. So our proposal is still the same. It's going to be, this pilot program is going to cost $630,000. And we're going to propose the council to approve that. We are also the staff have done, I know some of them are here. Each of them and people that are behind the scenes have done incredible work coming up with this cost savings and efficiencies. And so we ended last year with a little bit better balance than what we anticipated, and really speaks volume about the work the staff have done. So we're going to use that dollar amount. So this does not put a deficit in the general fund. So we would like to use part of that funding for it. So we're trying to be creative without creating more issues with the budget. How do we come up with that? So the council approves on this is like a $650,000, $30,000 package. If the council approves that, we feel confident that we can get the cleaning started on the November 1st. And the HST officers, I think mid-November is when we can have that resource in. And community health response model is not going to be until January 1st, because that's kind of a little bit bigger program, and then we need to kind of organize resources. And this is for the rest of the year. It's a pilot program. We also talked about performance measures on this. How do we know if this program is working or not? And those performance measures will be submitted to the budget committee when we are looking into the next year's budget and to see whether we extend this program. Right, so there is more work to come. What I want to be conscious about, and kind of repeat myself again, a lot of this depends on how we do with the budget, right? So we are very closely monitoring so that we don't. My hope and the mayor and the council's hope is, if this works, we should extend this to fiscal year 27, right? But we also have to be fiscally sustainable model, coming up with different fund sources and how we can be creative as well. So, you like I'm talking about this is. So that's where we are at with the program. And I know I don't want to get the kind of away from the mayor to talk about the Bloomberg, but any questions from me?
One quick question, when you talk about pilot program, that's pilot in what sense? That's just for a short term, or it's only for part of the city? What?
Well, it's from now to July 1st. And it's focused downtown and northeast Salem, because our data shows that the majority of the calls come from those two programs. And if it works, as we are expanding the program, we have to figure out how to kind of expand that to the rest of us. No questions on me? Are you guys trying to kind of take it easy?
I think everybody's processing when you said that was a lot of information. It was really good information. But
Yes.
maybe I should just speak for myself. I think I'm processing. Taking it in.
Can you just give me like a 30-second blip of what community health response is?
Yeah, so, and I'll ask, Gretchen, do you want to go with it?
if you like.
Yeah, so that would be helpful, but I can give, so to me, what we are looking at is like a mental health, response, individual from county, and then we have one paramedic and one EMT to go as a unit, as individuals are experiencing challenges and difficulties, to be able to kind of provide that holistic help. And then kind of provide some kind of a pathway to the next step.
Yeah, Krishna said that perfectly. Oh, Mayor, did you want to add?
Just that, I think it's really timely that we have Chief Verlof with us, because he has experience with this kind of thing in San Diego. So, this kind of co-response model is familiar to him. Just in case anybody isn't aware, we used to have a response model similar to that, but it was law enforcement with a QMHD, and it was very successful. The state made a determination that they did not want a law enforcement person paired with a qualified mental health professional. So they took that away. So it's taken this time to put it back up in their post.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, so we're hoping these folks will be able to be responsive and helpful if someone's having a behavioral health crisis, if someone is having substance use disorder reactions or challenges. And one of the things I'm excited about is the person or patient, if you will, doesn't have to just openly say, yes, I'm here and ready for help. Sometimes that's a challenge with some of the programs, and these folks are gonna come and give it a try, even if there's less than open arms. They're gonna be comfortable with that intermediate space, which is often, I think, where we find a gap.
So this won't be through PCC.
No,
Correct.
but it will be a partnership with, like, that's one of the locations. The Psychiatric Crisis Center is one of the locations where this team might transport someone to. And it's certainly in partnership with Marion County, who's working to try to source the qualified mental health associates that will have. Yeah.
Are you guys aware that the PCC building is moving? Yeah, they're relocating to commercial. I think it's 170, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Commercial.
Yeah. They, oh, where did I? Oh, man, the thought was here and then it was gone. And
Sorry.
no, you didn't. It was good. Oh, I think I wanted to come back to your point about clarifying, is this part of PCC? The Salem Fire Department is the entity managing the program, but in partnership with Marion County, who will provide our qualified mental health associates. So just to clarify that relationship. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait for that.
Me too. It's interesting to me. I heard in a meeting recently that when we had that program with law enforcement, there were 6 teams.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
to do this kind of work, and we haven't had that.
Yeah.
Now, so it just feels right.
Yeah, and we have times when people are in crisis and they're not saying, yes, please, I would like to have help. It doesn't come out that clear, so we need folks who are willing to show up anyway. Yeah.
You had a question?
Well, there's probably 3 or 4 or 5 spinning in my head right now, and the one that was prioritized, I think, is maybe not prioritized now. So, when you're talking, I think, Gretchen, about not necessarily open arms saying, yes, please help me. Wondering what the nature of the intervention will be, because the fact that it's not a police officer anymore, I mean, that does change the tone a little bit. So, but still wondering what that intervention looks like in those cases, if you don't mind sharing.
Actually, I'm really glad you asked, because I realized my intent could be misunderstood, and so I feel really grateful that you asked that, Drew. They still cannot compel or would not compel, there's no authority to compel a person into services or treatment, except in rare circumstances, if there's a very clear danger to self or others, which is, we all know, is a really high bar to pass. You know, if you're sitting in the middle of Commercial Street and you're refusing to leave the middle of the street, we're gonna take you out of the middle of the road, but you know, that's not the situation. No, I just mean, I've worked with folks before who maybe had a field component or maybe was willing to do outreach, but only if the patient or the person experiencing homelessness was coherent, clear in their thinking to say, I would like to speak with someone. And sometimes people are just lost. They're having a crisis, an acute crisis, and it's just not clear. And that's what I mean, is that they'll be okay to pop in and have a conversation and try things to try to help make the situation better. Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity to clarify that, Drew. Yeah. Krishna, are we okay with me to do a Q&A format?
Yeah.
Great, okay, Lori, yeah.
What I would like to say about the Psychiatric Crisis Center is that the Scan Neighborhood Association was very much in favor of that move into our neighborhood. And that will actually be located away from the hospital now, where they won't be right next to the hospital, but they'll be kind of kitty corner from the little roadhouse on Commercial. And just the building to the south of the bird place that sells the bird stuff, the very colorful red building. And I did hear from that gal yesterday in Marion County, they're planning on opening it there by the end of the month. So it'll be a change, you know, for things, but we, as the board of Scan, toured through there, hoping it would open much sooner, but it's really a great location. I mean, the building itself and the way it's put together and all the plans on how to utilize it, I think it really will be a good place for it.
And we need more mental health professionals.
Yeah, it's an old doctor's office. I don't know what it used to come.
Doctors, my sister used to work there, doctors building or doctors
yeah.
something,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have more questions?
I do.
Yeah.
That's keep going. So what's kind of a two-parter. One, there was a comment made earlier, and I apologize, I forget who said it. The decision to focus downtown and northeast was, I believe the comment was because that's where most of the calls are derived from or arrived from. Can you describe the calls? Like what kind of calls are we talking about? Like someone just calling 911, there's someone distressed, or someone reporting to the non-emergency line that there's a homeless encampment, or like, can you just describe that? Like what are the calls? And two, if the expectation currently is 630K to be non-deficit impacting, but to then just continue in next year, fiscal year, does that presume the geographic scope would remain just downtown northeast?
Okay,
So
so I'm going to take the budget question, then
Okay.
Gretchen, in the meantime, if you can kind of answer the type of calls, and when you guys send me the details of that, I am. But if we need both chiefs to explain that, we can also give that information later.
So let's kind of talk about the budget wise. So this year, we're still trying to, out of the $630,000, we feel comfortable with some adjustments about like moving forward with it. Do you want me to move, Gretchen? And
Fine.
where you are?
I want to welcome in Counselors Barney and Tigan. And there may have been a misunderstanding, there was 2:30 and 2.
Yes.
And so we want to apologize. I bet you were thinking you were arriving right on time, and we're half an hour in, so.
Actually, I thought I was half an hour late and happy to make that.
There was a thing that said 2:30 and 2, and so we want to make sure.
Good to see you guys. Just to kind of bring you guys on board, what we talked about is I just gave an update about where we are at for the safety and livability initiative that we are working on. And then also some Q&A. I did highlight the fact that we are going in 2 parallel paths where the safety and livability focus right now, the problem is to kind of addressing the symptoms. But as far as addressing the root cause, we are hoping with the Bloomberg work that we get some kind of a push to kind of move forward with it. We saw like a huge community engagement yesterday on the understanding how to address the root cause. So there is some momentum that's going on in that. So that's kind of what I updated them. And then we kind of open it up for Q&A. The question that I'm trying to answer is, so we have like $630,000 for the rest of the year to kind of run this program. We, and the city feels comfortable that with some of the savings that we had in the recent past, that we could use part of those savings to pay for the services. The question is, hey, what happens for the next year if this continues for the fiscal year 27? Is it going to cost that much? I think that's, am I kind of asking the question?
It sounded as if the potential rollover into next year would be at the same dollar amount. Maybe I misheard. And so I was just wondering, is the scope going to increase beyond downtown and northeast? I mean, no offense, but I'm less interested in dollars than in the services.
Yeah.
And, right, yeah, I'm sorry, I was unclear.
I just want to interject quickly that it's going to depend also on efficacy. Is it working?
Yeah,
What are we doing?
Sure.
And
That's the
then,
pilot program.
yes.
So you haven't misheard. I did not give you that out of the mouth for I did not. I just kind of realized it. But so if we are going to implement this program on a permanent basis, and then with the expansion of those services for the rest of the city, and there's more to share. I wish I brought the slide with us, but it's $2.75 million. And that also consists of adding community policing to it, like 8 community policing officers. And the chief recommended this for a long time, that these officers in the community, the entire city of Salem, will be working on building that trust with the community, and really be kind of doing the proactive policing. So there are stuff that I think there is a bigger ROI with the community policing than other stuff. So that's kind of the package includes those 8 additional officers. So that's $2.75 million. And one thing that we are looking into is, instead of making it like a huge liability on one particular fund, we are hoping to kind of tap into opioid settlement money, general fund, downtown paid parking, revenue, and I don't remember what the whole thing was, but
I don't think we know all of the options.
These are the ones that we listed last work session. So we're looking into different revenue models that would help pay for that 2.75.
And so, yeah, and so if it works, then the geographic scope will be expanded to the whole city. Does that, in city definition, does that include West?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
And downtown kind of comes over a little bit over the fence, I'll just tell you that too.
Thank you.
The data question, Drew, I've got a 3-part answer for. The first one is that when it isn't, is just reports of if someone sees an encampment and wants to call in and tell us about that. That's actually not even something that our non-emergency line just receives in and of itself. That's not inherently, an illegal thing. There's really a 2-part way to report that. One is Northwest Human Services, where we're sitting right now, has a crisis outreach request on their form, on their web. If you're ever worried about someone's welfare and you want to just say, hey, I'm concerned about someone and I'm seeing them camping or whatever it is, you can send in, and then as the resources allow, they'll send their medical outreach out to help. You can also report, the city has a portal to report concerns if you're seeing waste, garbage, if you're seeing issues of concern related to an unsheltered encampment. We've got a link on our webpage where you can report that in, and that goes to our team that's been nicknamed the SOS team, Salem Outreach and Livability Services, and they're gonna try to connect it to the proper jurisdiction. So that's not the kind of data that we're talking about, is like number of encampments. So on the police side of it, when we talk about data for police, sorry, I just need to reorient myself here. The crime issues that we're talking about, illegal theft, open illegal drug use, shoplifting, vandalism. This does I think there might be some encampment data in here actually, so I stand slightly corrected, but that's not a common thing that they'll take at the non-emergency line. Littering, abandoned waste, just trash left everywhere. So that's an example on the police crime side, and you'll see the data demonstrates a change in the downtown and northeast Salem areas in those categories. The third part of the answer is the fire response, and these are just calls related to individual health needs. And we see the quickest rise in downtown and northeast, and that could be really anything that you think of, somebody just in a physical health distress situation.
So can I add something
Please,
to that? So I think it's important to kind of, so as we were looking into the data, I just wanted to kind of make sure that we are highlighting this is, as we are assigning the 2 HSD officers citywide, they're kind of going to help with that, what they're assigned to. And it kind of frees up other resources on the police side a little bit. When we are talking about the crime, that is not like directly related to the unsheltered population. That's not what it is. We have organized that theft happening in downtown and northeast Salem. And these are not the individuals in Salem.
Right.
They're like people from Portland and other areas. It is organized theft events that are happening. And so this also allows the police to be going after those individuals. So I just kind of want to say, this is nowhere an indication that the crime is like completely related to the unsheltered population. There is other crime that happens, and also for me, the education, like from Jake Snell.
Yeah.
He's our SOS supervisor. When it comes to cleaning, yes, there is a lot of thing that we have to do because of the unsheltered population, but also there is illegal dumping that happens from other people in the community that this team cleans. So there is that happening too. So I just want to kind of mention that when it comes to crime and the friendliness, it's a bigger issue. It's not one-on-one, right? Like so. Anyway.
Thank you all. I really appreciate it.
Oh, and we have in the winter time when it rains, the trash just gets heavy and more expensive to.
Well, more questions are welcome. We also were welcoming public comment and we did have a person sign up to provide that. I don't know if there's other questions at this moment.
So Gretchen, if I may, Council Tigan and Council Varney, is there anything that you guys would like to add to the conversation?
Not at this point. I mean, when I was at that Dream Center yesterday, yesterday morning, I mean, there were Mark's comments about how the community policing officers, the big difference they made in some of the programs they. So just keep continuing to learn more about the importance of the community policing in terms of being proactive rather than us just having to respond all the time. I mean, just to community issues.
Thank you.
Ooh, you've not heard of the Salem Dreams? West Salem Dream Center started in this neighborhood, and it is to focus on the desires to change what our youth are doing in this neighborhood, give them an opportunity to enter into their space to get mentored, get after school tutoring. They have programs for youth, but then they also have programs for families. And it really began in this neighborhood, this Edgewater district. And it's expanded and grown. Some of the families that have moved out of here, they've stayed in relationship, but it's the program that has just helped generations of families to come out of poverty, first time graduates. So it has a lot of programs, like I said, with youth, but some of the programs for adults are like English classes or cooking classes, or parenting classes, finance classes, just a huge broad spectrum of opportunities for families that maybe didn't get that in school or education, didn't attend school, or maybe are migrants that hadn't learned a lot of those life skills. So it's a really good program.
So there's a physical location.
Yeah, their building is called Nuestra Casa, which in Spanish means our house, and is located on, what is that, 8th Street? I don't know, corner of 8th and, I don't remember, it's
Just down from Walker.
yeah, it's really close to Walker Middle School.
We mean they want the middle school on Saturday.
They do Saturday programs for the youth to come in and play in the gym, they feed lunches, that's the specific Saturday program.
Thank you.
Council Tigan, you had a comment again?
Yeah, I think just, again, apologize for coming into the conversation midstream, but the question about what the council has indicated we want to support in the short term, the expansion of the SOS team and the expansion of the HST, the homeless services team on from the police side of things. We do have an upcoming budget meeting on Wednesday, the 22nd. I think it is. I was doing my calendar this morning and said, oh, wow, budget committee, we're getting back together this month. And I think that really looking in, having the budget committee look at potential revenue sources that the city council reviewed a few weeks ago and really kind of understanding as we get to next year's budget cycle, what's going to be asked of the budget committee in terms of, okay, if you can identify some new revenue sources, what kinds of things do you want them to go towards? The city council doesn't go very far or very long without checking in with the budget committee, and we've got one of those check-ins this month. And so I think that's another place to have that. Okay, if this is really going to cost $2.7 million a year, where's that money coming from? And what kind of policy decisions have to be made in order to make that happen? Those revenue sources that the city manager were talking about. Other ones include changing the operations fee that is on everyone's utility bills to structure that differently to either just fix its fairness or actually increase revenues for programs like this. Potential closures to the urban renewal areas that would increase tax revenue back to the general fund. Those are additional things we need to talk about as the budget. So I think we knew that meeting was coming when we said, let's do a short-term thing and we'll check in with the budget committee for the meeting tomorrow.
So Councilor Tigan, I did thank you for that, I think, before you came in. Just I did, but I
You could have stopped me a lot sooner.
So what I was going to say, like, we knew that our proposal was January first. And when Council Tiger made the comment about why are we waiting until January first, let's do this sooner than later. It was just like a level of energy for all the staff because even though it's a lot of work to kind of get it done in a short period of time, we really want to kind of get this program going and kind of give that to the community. So, and even from the community conversations that we are having, a lot of people are surprised that we are able to kind of do something like this so quickly. So I want to thank you for giving us that, giving that permission to move on quickly.
We can switch over to the public comment part, if that sounds good. We had one person, Sue Fowler with ELNA, the East Lancaster Neighborhood Association. Would you like to share?
Actually, I thought I was just signing the attendance.
Guilty.
Glasses on.
You guys did too? Good job.
Almost.
Yeah,
Can I just quickly talk about, I was at the ELNA Neighborhood Association meeting last week and it's actually a really great idea from ELNA and then I think NOLA for those neighborhood associations to kind of collaborate and kind of open up like something like this for me and the board chiefs to go and have a conversation to the community in those two neighborhood associations. And I think it was your suggestion, but I think it's a great idea. If there's something like that, we would love to be part of it.
I have a question about what is the toilet public bathrooms still on the table as far as access downtown, and if it is, where are we in the process of that?
Yeah, and I think it is still on the strategic action plan document, where we are at, and I want Gretchen to add more to it, but we are right now trying, I think one of the options that was suggested was the Portland Blue, right? Okay. And so we are trying that particular solution at the McKay Park right now. I don't, and once we understand what works and what doesn't work, then we'll bring that back to the council with a dollar amount attached to it, if we are going to do something like that in downtown. So there's kind of a little more work that needs to be done in that area before we can kind of make a recommendation. And go ahead.
Can you just tell us what's at the McKay Park?
Yeah, so Gretchen, do you want to?
I'd be happy to. Right now, it's kind of a construction zone. It's a place that hasn't had a built bathroom before, but needs one. And so we already had secured funding through our infrastructure bond that was passed by the voters to be able to improve restrooms at McKay Park. And so we're acquiring the single user restroom that it's purchased by a company named Portland Blue. And we're gonna be landing 2 of those into McKay Park and begin to learn how to work with them. How do they work from a maintenance standpoint? We're encouraged by the research we've done with other cities for this particular model of a sidewalk restroom. I would add in addition, Mayor Hoy probably remembers, we brought a more detailed report about outdoor restrooms to the infrastructure bond committee, since they're investing in this one and those councilors were interested in light of this safety and livability conversation. So we did an analysis of the chemical toilets, the current brick and mortar bathrooms, like what you might see at Riverfront Park, and then these single user structures, restrooms. And so they were able to do a deeper dive into what do these cost, what would be the maintenance aspects, what do they look like, what are the different safety features for each of them. We want to make sure users feel comfortable and are safe, and so those vary with what they are. So we brought that kind of detailed work to the infrastructure committee, to the bond committee. And then they said, we think city council would have broad interest in this. So next we'll plan to bring that same report and information so that all of the members of city council can have that as they're thinking about how do these work, what could be some next steps. So that's where we are in that process.
They are.
So if you imagine, like the Riverfront Park, for example, is kind of a bank of several doors and several rooms. And you know, you can't see inside. These instead, they're metal structures, so super easy to clean. It's a single user restroom. There's space at the low end and space at the high end, so you might know if someone's in there. And the lighting is set to where a person couldn't see their veins. There's some of these that you can lock remotely, so if we're needing to lock it but don't have the maintenance staff to get around to everywhere, but we want to keep them open a little later, we could lock remotely, but a person can still exit. What else? They're easier to clean. There's a few features of these that we think are just going to be a lot nicer. We've had maintenance challenges with the other ones. Gosh, I feel like there's something else to add. Oh, this model in concept and conversation visited our disability rights task force on Monday night. We got some really good feature from someone of particularly short stature who was talking about now how low can those go and you can still see people, just to make sure to be respectful of varying height. So we've been basically learning and getting some feedback on these models to be able to bring to council a kind of a comprehensive understanding of all of it.
What's the timeline for you guys to come back to council after the McCabe once they're open? Like how long?
No, good question. I think the date isn't to be determined. We want to get it open. We don't have a date yet for when those are going to land in the park. So once we get those open and get a chance to watch them for a little bit, we'll come with an update, but I don't know yet when. Yeah.
They're in the process of laying the foundation for restrooms, so we kind of had to make a decision on what we were building a foundation for. And went for the public move option, public move option, so we can see how that goes. Have an opportunity to test it. I'm curious if there's a certain area of town you're interested in, or a certain park you're interested in having.
I mean, I would say most likely Marion Square Park would be a great one.
Yeah.
I live in Northeast Salem. I spend most of my time in downtown Salem. But
Yeah.
more so, I was just wondering, you know, with it being coming into fall and other issues that are going to be going on, I love the fact of some of the safety concerns, some of the safety features that it does have in there is really great.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for saying that. So I was going to say, Gretchen and I have been talking about the David Square Park a little bit. I took and I did a ride along with one of the parks, employee. And so I asked him the question, Ruben, and I asked him the question about if there's one thing that you have to change, the entire thing, like what would that be, same right? And his thing was something, we need to make some improvements to make this. And he, as an employee, he talked about, I was actually very appreciative of his comments, and I felt like I learned a lot through it. And he said he's concerned about the safety of the individuals that are in that park. And the way the park is structured, somebody could be kind of going off the road and, that could hurt somebody there. So he talked about the safety of the individuals that are in that park. And the second piece, the amount of staff resources that takes to just to clean the park itself. And then he also talked about the public restroom that isn't there, which is not open, it's not working. So that was his suggestion from Ruben on the David Square Park. And so Gretchen and I know you guys have been talking about that too. So we were having some conversations about, okay, what are some options there? But thank you for saying that too.
And does it have to be in a park? Because you said sidewalk, right?
They don't have to be in a park. These single user restrooms, you can really place in a variety of locations, and we've seen them in both places. We just had the funding at parks, and there's other parks too, that as we move forward with the opportunity to replace the restrooms, like I love the Marion Square Park needs a new restroom. We're thinking this model could be the model. We want to see how it works. Yeah, but they don't have to be in a park.
They do have to have funding.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you'll hear me say again and again, is for me in this position, but even before, it's important that, we pilot, we understand what works and what doesn't work. One of my models has been try small and fail fast. like, so we know like what it is, and then we try something new. So that's kind of the model that we are working with, because this is like a public money, and we don't want to just kind of go with the program, not knowing whether it works, and so once we know on a smaller scale what works and what doesn't work, we can make adjustments, and then kind of when we implement a full program, we completely understand what it takes to do that, right? So that's kind of what we are trying to do with the public restrooms too. It is in the strategic action plan, but there is no date attached to it. And some of the items, like there is also another item on the list that does not have any date attached to it. So anyway, so it is something else.
I don't wanna open a can of worms, but, I can't recall the dollar amount. It's not cheap.
No, it's not. If you. Oh, is it 200 and something thousand?
290,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Per unit.
Per year.
And that, it's a
Is
really,
that for two?
well, it's variable, like, it's it really varies a lot. I'm always.
It's like buying a car, depends on what's
It's
happening.
yeah.
If you get the spray coating, it's more.
Like, you know, there's the base model with nothing else, what can be as low as $85,000, but it depends on what you add, all the features. And it also depends on what you have to do to build out the area, because you have to have the proper infrastructure in place, and that adds cost too.
And Public Works Director Ryan Martin's recommendation is that $270,000 or something like that, and that's the unit thing. Well, and I'm the public safety queen, and what I really didn't want to do and don't want to was people's space for bad things to happen. I want to create a space that's safe, that you can see people in, and that's not conducive to shooting drugs or whatever. That kind of thing is important to me in that meeting.
Well, and I've done my own research on the Portland Loo, and the reality is that, you know, if we do have one that we put downtown or something eventually, it's not gonna be, it's gonna have issues. I mean, the Portland Loo, I know that it's been bought by places, I think even over in Europe. And I think in Portland too, they've had to close down some of the Portland Loos. One of the issues that still happens with the porta potties is stuffing the big garbage bags filled with stuff down in the toilet and backing up the sewer. And still people locking themselves in there. I mean, especially if it's cold at night. So if we have the clean team, or we have these other entities that we beef up that has more oversight. The key is gonna be oversight. We have to have people with eyes on the bathroom that can go in and clean it and, you know, stay on top of that, because it isn't gonna be perfect. It's gonna be, if we're gonna have issues and we're gonna have to fumble through it, it's just the nature of what comes along with having some of our people on the streets and stuff, that they're gonna be looking for a warm place to be or whatever, or locking themselves in there because their brain is going all over the place and they want to be in there to. I come from this from experience. I was one of the people on the Art of Potty movement that we started with the porta potties, that we had a wrap around it. We had intentionally planned on having 6 placed in different areas downtown. We had 2 behind the Reed Opera House. We had 1 on Front Street. First Congregational is the one where we had our first one. And it worked really well for a while, but the one on Front Street, we had to take away right away because of the damage that was being done. We had the biggest problem we came up against is that the businesses were really upset about the fecal matter around their stores, and that's why we started it. Rebecca Maitland was the manager for the Reed Opera House at the time, and we all got this going, 6 of us, but we couldn't get businesses to help fund it. They didn't want the fecal matter in their doorway, but they didn't want to keep helping to fund cleaning the porta potties. And so eventually, but we dealt with the things that we dealt with, and I don't see why it would be different with Portland Loo, is somehow trying to keep it where people don't occupy it. or go in. And even though it might be metal inside, there's still things that can happen. I'm not trying to downplay it because I want to have the bathrooms. But we have to go at it knowing that we're gonna run up against issues and. As a community, we're gonna have to be willing to do. What we can to deal with that, to make it successful.
And thank you for saying that. I think part of that, as we're trying to figure out whether it works or not, part of that also, do we have the funding for staff to.
Right.
So it has to come with that.
Yeah.
I think that's a Lori, and then you, did I cut you up there?
No, it's just in agreement with Krishna, they can't, what we can't afford to do is just have a constant babysitting. Come back.
Yeah, no, it's not reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like we have more and more people too in wheelchairs, and a lot of elderly or disabled who are in wheelchairs or walkers. So I'm assuming they couldn't get those into, oh, they can.
Yeah, they can.
They can?
Yeah, it's totally, yeah.
Well, then my other question would be also, because I know that there's some business who are very open to people using their restrooms and others who are not, but I wonder if we have any incentives for any businesses who would be willing to let people use their restrooms, other than me, a buying customer, or, you know, I know like the gas station on 25th and Mission. There's gas stations all over town, but they're far from downtown. But they have big areas you can walk in. They don't even have doors until you get in the restroom. But those are far away from the downtown area. But if we did have some places that would consider disabled, handicapped, using their restrooms, that would be good to.
I know Arches and Union Gospel Mission both, when they're available, allow restroom use to for.
And the transit station.
And the transit station, yeah, go ahead.
Mine was actually with Boris, is piggybacking off of that. You know, I used to work with the navigation center and at Arches, and Arches actually doesn't allow bathroom use unless you've checked in.
Oh, thank you.
And they don't, like, they just have a lot more restrictions. But if there was a way for the city to partner and maybe have some funding in that, to have an incentive for Arches or for Union Gospel or for different places downtown, stating like, you know, the city would be able to fund so much of this, and then it's on them to, you know, observe it, because like at Arches, within their mail room, they have 4 stalls that they never use and they're just constantly locked. And yet they could unlock it, and like on their, you know, codes of conduct, what they do is they monitor it every 5 minutes. And so you already have a built-in babysitter there. They just, you know, don't have a maintenance person to fix those restrooms, where at the navigation center, when the restrooms broke, they call the city and the city fixes that bathroom stall. If there was a way to already have the established places that do provide services, one to homeless, but then also to other places in the community and downtown, if the city could partner and provide some resources and incentive in providing it.
Yeah, I think that the places like at the coast, where they're open all the time, you can just walk in, there's no doors until you get into the. And I wonder how they work in Lincoln City or at the beach, if they have the problems that we have on them.
They don't have the population and the concentration of people that we have. It's, yeah. And they have a tourist industry, so they're wanting to be open for the tourist industry.
But like at Mo's, they have all the people who live in the bushes there, Mo's. And they use all those restrooms there. So I don't know, you know, which type of restrooms are the best or the least popular.
I know our team sent a group up to Vancouver And over into Portland, there's an area in Portland, sort of semi near the airport, and they toured several locations and looked at it and collected some information from the staff. How does this work? What do you run into? So I know those are some of the areas that they looked at, which is what took us towards this single user restroom model. Yeah.
One can remember the arches in Reed Gospel District is that a lot of people have been kicked out of those places and even the transit station. So then they have no accessibility.
Yes, sir.
I guess I came in the wrong door because I didn't see your sheet to sign up on.
You're here, you say whatever you want.
Yeah, so I'm West Salem resident and, so my comments are primarily connected to Saturday mornings, walking across the railroad bridge to the Saturday market, going up Union Street next to Marion Square Park, and then, if we go someplace and, eat in downtown, and we're transiting diagonally through Marion Square Park on our, way back across the railroad bridge. And so what, I've noticed is, and as the mayor said, that when it starts raining, it gets wet and heavy, it's just the garbage that, you'll have, I guess what you call a sweep through Marion Square Park, and it will look pristine, for a little while, and then stuff just starts, piling up, and so you wonder, where does all this stuff come from, and are we contributing to a problem, or are we solving a problem? That, it's kind of like you're handing out free stuff or something like that to homeless people because they lack stuff, but then they don't try to, maintain it or keep it dry and clean or something, and so then they just dump it in the park, and now it becomes trash that, has to be picked up, and the cycle just kind of continues. Then the other thing, as you're walking along the street, you meet people who, I guess in my naive case, I would say they must be high on drugs or something, because they're just babbling and talking to, no one. So, how are we, getting them help? And one of the things I frequently heard is that, well, they don't want help. And so then when you say, okay, well, we have these intervention people, but, they can't compel them to, to receive treatment or help, how do you break that cycle so it's kind of like you're always dealing with symptoms and you're never getting the root causes to, to fix it. So, and then the other thing is, again, being a West Salem resident, you come off the driving off the bridge and head north on Front Street, and so again, you're going, right around that area and seeing, what looks like a permanent encampment by the time they have a tent and they have a awning and, up so, and on one side, you kind of give them credit that they're trying to improve their space, but, on the other hand, you see all this junk piled around it. And so that, I guess it's kind of the concern for these people that they need help, but, are we effectively providing it, or what do we need to be able to, provide effective help?
You've asked probably 7 great questions in there, and I suspect probably several people around this table would have thoughts and answers. I might invite you to think about the answer as even more diverse and complex than what your set of questions were, because in my experience, it is so varied. It is so varied. I don't know how to emphasize that enough. Like, I even remember an experience at Marion Square Park, in particular, where you walked through, where I had one set of people who were working really hard every day. They were unsheltered themselves. One of them had employment and still didn't earn enough and was going around collecting trash and cleaning it up. But then you had others who I think were suffering from some severe persistent mental illness, who would get into the trash and throw it all around, and she'd call me in the morning and she'd say, I just cleaned this up. And now it's all over again, and I don't know what to do, you know, it's just within even the same small community, you really have a lot of difference. You mentioned the kind of the badly, and I think it's so hard to know. I've met people out there who are at once in a mental health situation, have a substance use disorder, they might have a chronic public health condition. Pamela and I were talking about someone that we know in that situation who I saw at Marion Square Park on my drive here today. And so sometimes all of those things are on board all at the same time, you know? You mentioned not wanting help, and that appears as complex as that can seem too. There's people who aren't believing that when someone has a conversation with them that it'll lead to a change. There's someone who may not have confidence in themselves to do the right things to change. You might have people who just are not having the conversation at all. It seems so varied with that category of people too. And then you've got folks that are in areas that we're not with authorization to go. Like, I think a lot of folks think maybe we can get in under the bridges, and that's actually not city property or city responsibility or city authority. So we don't have lawful authority to go in there and do the work that we do on city property. We're limited to our city property, and we've been, although lobbying the state, we don't have state ability to get under there to get that done, you know? So we've also just got authority challenges. So it's so complicated. I don't know. It looked like you wanted to add to that.
Not that, but I just wanted to jump back to your guys' 3 areas. When you guys do the community health response and go out, is that also gonna be providing like a follow-up for case management?
I don't know.
Because
I don't think so.
something that I've experienced within, you know, working at Arches and with UGM is they don't get those services of case management.
Yeah.
And many of the people that are stuck on the street, adding to the problem is the fact that there's not somebody there holding their hand the whole way. They're never going to be able to get sheltered within the programs, you know, that different other agencies have. And yet, you know, being able to go over those barriers, how do they get somebody to walk alongside?
Yeah.
So, oh, go ahead, sorry. So I was gonna say that came up as a discussion point yesterday when we were, I know, Rob, you were there. As that there is no case management, and also there are so many different agencies trying to help the same individual, but there isn't a very like one single database to be able to say like, okay, how do we help this individual from, you know, point A to point B? So I don't know who said this, but somebody really expressed that desire to like, we need to be doing a better job of having that case management, and I'm not sure who would own that, but that's something that. So this is sorry that I didn't get context, but yesterday there were 30 community members, and Lori and Robert were there. 30 community members came together to talk to 2 professors, 2 employees from Harvard. This is Bloomberg Harvard collaboration track that the mayor got selected into. So they actually came in and talked about how do we move forward with it and what are some of the innovation ideas. And somebody mentioned this as being as a way to move forward, right? So didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, you were fine. I was just gonna say there's some data to substantiate, but you're really right with that point. But Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance did an analysis on case management in our area and concluded really a similar thing, that we do need more really specific.
Yes,
case
because we
management.
are tracking them through HMIS. And we know who they are, you know, if they're at Samonka House or if they've, you know, checked in to get breakfast at UGM, like we're able to track them in their daily walks and all of the different agencies that are helping them. But are any of them actually like to them to the next step?
Who's on phone, who's
Yeah.
walking with them?
Yeah. And personally for me, like, you know, when I worked at Arches, on my side time, I helped a couple of those individuals that just didn't have that.
Yeah.
And as I was trying to work with Marion County Mental Health, they would not help my individual because he had medical issues. But then Northwest Human Services wouldn't help my individual because he had mental health and drug related issues.
Oh,
And so it was a collide that neither would help him.
oh,
And then I ended up, being able to get him into full-time sheltering in Sheridan. And he had a doctor's appointment in Salem and didn't know how to get back onto the bus and lost his housing.
oh,
And so now he's back, in front of Isaac's room.
it's so hard.
But it's that, that person would have never had case management because he doesn't score properly in HMIS system.
Right. It might help to do a couple of quick things. HMIS is the homeless management information system. The owner or we're part of a number of partners trying to work on this issue. And the Homeless Alliance brings together the city, both of our counties, a number of key partners like Salem Health, Salem Kaiser Schools, Community Action Agency, to work on trying to solve these regional challenges that we're all in together. So to the original point about there's some root cause challenges at work, the Homeless Alliance is also working alongside trying to work on some of these issues. Yeah. Oh, I see Lori's hand.
One of the problems I see between the agencies, and I think part of what, we were talking about yesterday is we do have the silos in Salem. We've got a different, but who's communicating with who? So one of the things as an advocate that I see is Church at the Park does X number of things. If you take a person there, they're gonna take them to get their ID or their different things. There's different people at different places who do different things, but it's hard to keep up or keep track of who's doing what and when.
Yeah.
And then Arches, one of the issues I have is that as an advocate, I can ask people questions, or as a volunteer, I can say, I'm the second oldest of 7 girls and I can help you with that if you want to talk to me. Arch's staff can't pinpoint to somebody of, well, we see you're having this issue, and there's so many boundary things of what they can say or what they can't, if they're low barrier, high barrier. Whereas for us, we can say different things or whatever we feel like saying to people. Organizations, they can't do that. So unless we can get some of that to change too, when you see a pregnant person sitting at a doorway sleeping there, but nobody can say, well, I see you're pregnant, do this and that. So it's a different communication of what some of us can say and what some can't. If that makes any sense.
One thing I would add is that we just state the obvious. This is a complex situation with many factors at play at all at the same time. And it's been, frustrating for me to learn how to not be able to get folks to communicate on the same plane about what's happening for an individual, what their needs, or what their history might be, how we can best help them. There aren't enough people to walk alongside everybody who has needs. We don't have that kind of resource. I was really encouraged. I'm super encouraged by the Denver Harbor relationship, because these folks, aren't just doing this for Salem. They do it all around the world in communities that are facing the same issues that we wouldn't even know about. That they're dealing with the same thing. So they're coming into Salem to listen and to learn about who we are and what we're dealing with, and then to help us to maybe design or develop processes and programs that are going to help us get this kind of thing together so we can, it's called the collaboration track for a reason. It's not just about the city. It's not just about the city, county, state, and feds. It's about the city and the service providers and the residents. And it's the holistic picture that we need to address. So I'm super encouraged by the kickoff that happened yesterday. It was a really great discussion and process to go through. And this is just the beginning. It wasn't just a one-time retreat kind of thing to talk. They're investing, rooting in Salem to be with us on this pathway. It doesn't make everything better. yesterday. But it does give us a really incredible amount of resource alongside us as a city. And I even heard that in some parts of the world, if you have a need and you don't have the funding to create that program, they may well help with you financially.
So just to kind of add on to that, 2016, each city, like the Austin, entered into the Mayor's Challenge program. And part of that is to create the case management for, and Bloomberg sponsored them with an $8 million seed money to start the program for Austin. And I know Austin has done a good job on that. So this kind of has been case studies where Bloomberg has helped. And that's also, let's learn from that, what worked for Austin, what did not work for Austin. But that was part of the Bloomberg Mayor's Challenge program, which we also applied at that time and we didn't receive it. And I was curious about who got it, and Austin did. But anyway, so there are some opportunities to lead this program. There's that I think they're very much invested into the program, so I'm hoping that we.
Think to the original comment too, I think as a relatively new elected official, I think one of the more frustrating parts about the position is running into the thing that you described, which is, oh, well, that's not city property, or that's not our, it doesn't take long before you run into a jurisdictional challenge, or that's not our thing, or we went to the person who is the thing. And so I think that collaboration track is really, has identified that as the frustration, and hopefully have solutions that go to it. I'm reminded of a study that came out in, I think, July, that said last year, 2024, in the Portland metro area, they spent $724 million on homeless services. If you divide that by the number of people in their point in time survey, is about $61,000 per person in 1 year. And a lot of the analysis of that is redundancy. And so that there's redundant services being provided, there's not coordination between the service providers. And so, though I'm not part of the collaboration track, I think there's good models of things we should be doing, maybe like they have in Austin. And then I think there's also examples of it not working. And it's hard to say that because there's probably a lot of people in the Portland area being helped by that money being spent. Like, you don't want to discount that. And then I think, just like in our community, there's a lot of people who feel like not enough is being done. So it's not like $724 million is being flushed down the toilet. People are being helped. But to the perceptions of people that need it being. So how do you also change the narrative about people being served and making progress at the same time? I think for real obvious reasons that number is going to stick in my head for a while. And I hope that when we're investing in our little piece as a city, there's coordination about all of the pieces that are being spent, so we can say we're getting better outcomes for the money that's being spent.
And thank you for that transfer. Courtney or Lori, I don't know if you remember yesterday at the track, Griffin talked about a lot of times when the agencies are coming together and to find those efficiencies and kind of remove that redundancy and wastage. It's fear of losing, but not fear of something. It's not, what did he say?
And he was saying that change, the reason why people are struggling or fearful of change, it's not about the change itself, but it's the change would result in a loss. So it's that perceived loss that people are reacting to, not the change. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's basically like if you have an agency that is working on, is in charge of these XYZ services, by collaborating, if they have to let go of X service,
that's a loss for them, or they go against dollar.
Yeah, so it's
That's a
the
loss. and they're
20%
like,
administrative
wait a
fee
minute.
on the grant.
I got my grants, I'm doing my thing. Right. So that was interesting for me, it's not the change itself, but they don't want to lose that control. Understanding that this would help everybody, right, to reduce their cost of operation, so that, you know.
Yeah.
I'll add, sometimes we run into that with people experiencing unsheltered homelessness too, because they perceive a change of going into something as maybe a loss of fill in the blank.
Loss of freedom or loss of whatever it is, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting,
Their own perception of control.
right?
Safe, almost.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes, Councilman.
I'm just curious, what is the Mid-Atlantic Valley Homeless Alliance doing right now in regard to this coordination and collaboration? Because when I was on the board before, this was brought up, and the fear of change is part of the, you know, one of the challenges with the coordinated care. And we talked about HMIS. And I assisted with some data analysis with it. And there were things that were added. For instance, there were more agencies or individuals that were trained to be able to input data rather than it coming just from one place. But this is all from many months ago, and I'm kind of curious, because I'm sure some of you have followed it, what has been going on since then to be able to create this coordination that it sounds like we're really continuing to lack. I mean, when I was on the Food and Sundries Distribution Task Force years ago, that was the big thing. There were all these distribution things going on all over, but there wasn't any coordination. And it seems like we're still having challenges with that. And we really need to address that rather than continuing to just throw Band-Aids on.
I don't think, we've always been dealing with the silos here. I know that the agencies have tried to, you know, say that they're gonna coordinate better and everything, but it comes down to the money. You know, they're all trying to find something on the same pot, but to go back to your, list, sir, about, you know, I think I would say yes to all the above. Are some of us contributing to that? I would say yes, I am. I think a lot, you know, other people, but I think statistics shows that the earlier that we can get people, the quicker we can get to people experiencing homelessness, the better chance we have of getting them to be successful when they do get into permanent housing. The longer someone's on the street, and Stephen Goins has a wonderful talk about the homeless brain. Our brain literally gets transformed into survival mode. And so the concept of why do people have garbage on the ground? Well, because when your brain gets completely transformed, the idea of even picking up a piece of garbage and putting it over in a trash can over there, we're looking at it with our housed mind. We're not looking at it with an unhoused mind. And so, the situation gets so complicated because every single person, I know that I have taken on individuals and when, you know, that start out with just one thing, and I'll try to finish up here shortly. But you start out at the surface with one thing, like maybe that they need to get an ID. And then another layer comes uncovered, and then another one, and another one. And the next thing you know, you are so far down into an incredibly complicated life with just one individual that it's almost completely overwhelming. And that's the heartbreak about it. You know, I'm out and about all the time around different areas of Salem. And that's one thing about the SOS team with the cleanliness, but the drawback to it is that they also have to pick up their camp and move, and a lot of them are not able to pick up and pack up everything, so they don't have their essentials. A lot of times, I've been there and I'll say, but don't you wanna pack up your tent and your sleeping bag? And they'll go, no. And they'll pick up a bag that's, to me, like cosmetics, and they'll be like, I'm gonna take this. But the very thing they need that's gonna provide warmth and protection is not what they're gonna take with them, and so that will get thrown into the dump truck. And so then the search starts over again for the vital things that they need to have that are gonna help protect them to get through the night. It's a very, very complicated situation. And one that I don't know how we're gonna get to the bottom, you know, to really get it sorted out where we start shutting off the faucet until we start getting into more equity as far as we have to get back into where we care about each other and we're willing to fund organizations and things that are about lifting everybody up. And we are so far down away from that. And right now I see us, we're in a horrible storm right now. Because we have federal and state money being pulled to the very time that we are at the most critical. Well, we have people that are suffering, and we're gonna see a tsunami come January of even more people that are gonna fall into homelessness, that are gonna be families with young children. And that's where I start to wonder is, are we trying to think about that and what are we gonna do as a community and city when we start seeing this kind of thing developing, because it will. And we're not gonna have the structure, the foundations in place to take on this tsunami that we may be faced with. To deal with this very complicated situation. It's very, very concerning time. More so than I've seen it in the 10+ years that I've been involved with it. And so I don't know, I don't have the answer right now, except that we're gonna have to really start coming together as a community. And that's why and I'll finish up. I appreciate so much these meetings that you're doing, because this is what I've loved about Salem. Salem has gotten bigger over the years, you know, but we have stayed a small town mindset in a way where we see a lot of the same people at the tables and we're still in there working together, trying to claw out how can we do better, what can we do different. We may disagree, but I like the fact that we keep trying and we keep hanging in there. And I appreciate you, interim number 8, for keeping the conversation open and having these meetings so that the community can come. Because we have to talk to each other, we have to keep that going and keep it open. And not build up these little stick figures like the business people are horrible and they're the enemy. No, they're in pain too. They're in a lot of pain too, just like everybody else. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
I had a follow-up for what you had asked about, Mid-Willamette, Homeless Alliance. And last I had heard, like in July, because this had quite a big layoff with most of their staff. And, something I would love within HMIS is accountability with all the agencies. I had worked with Mid-Willamette Valley, so I had assumed that everyone could see as much as I could see, and that wasn't necessarily the case. But what was great for me to be able to see is I could see where an individual was and, you know, how long they had been in the system, how long they might have been abusing the system and having the same kind of assistance over and over instead of where was the plan in place and why were they getting rental assistance for 6 years instead of creating a plan of, you know, livability that they could do after a 6-month period. And now I work up in Portland and in Montgomery County, and we have HMIS, but we do nothing with it. And so it would be an amazing program if statewide there was an accountability within HMIS, and that it statewide in all of the different counties communicate, so that when somebody goes from Marion County to Multnomah, we could see what their track history was, what their mental health history was, where they've been banned, what kind of assistance that they need to better support them.
And that all gets into HIPAA with every
Well,
separate
kind of.
agency.
In order to have the HMIS and have your own login to HMIS, you are signing a HIPAA thing, and so you are able to see everybody's, knowing that it is confidential within you. And not to be out of your work.
I'm gonna jump in and conclude the large group gathering. We're at the time. I really thank all of you for the good discussion and information sharing and thoughts. I'll sure stay after in case anyone wants to keep chatting, but I just wanted to let you, in case anyone needs to leave, we're at the time. So I wanted to make you feel comfortable to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's cool to meet you. I don't know if we've met yet. Thank you, Chris.
My name's Christy. I've called you a couple of times for water. Very cool. Oh, very good. Yeah.
Yeah, because.
Was it up in here? No.
Far great.
I just realized that
Margaret.
was not the record. Hang on just a sec here.